It's
Does Oscar?
um, Eric Fisher from Digital, Ricky from IT. Yeah.
So they're the ones doing the cards and the transitions and all
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Andrew?
Right here.
There you go.
I get
You live
300
streaming tonight?
viewers. What's that?
You're live streaming tonight?
Yeah.
Nice.
Oops. I'll fix that in editing.
Oh, I don't know if you know this, but this is on a permanent talkback right now.
Is it really?
Yeah, it's broken.
So it's the button, not the mic.
But I can hear. I can hear like.
Yeah, but I mean, they got to fix the button, obviously.
Yeah, the button. Yeah, and like when you turn it on, the on button doesn't go on.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah. I don't know. I guess it happened yesterday or today.
I think it happened yesterday because I heard Shannon referring to it.
Oh, okay.
Oh, speaking of Shannon, I have some drops.
Oh, well.
That I won't ever play.
What?
What?
So you're going with drops tonight?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm getting my Shannon drops ready to go. Uh-huh. I haven't played Assad Needs to Go in a long time. I am editing something that I brought in.
You want a teriyaki beef jerky sample?
Yeah, there's usually a lot of sugar in those, but
Jerky samples.
I'll take, see, total carbs 7, sugar is 7, it's all sugar. By the way,
this sausage is perfection. What a sausage fest.
so I actually had a meeting with a local seltzer company. I'm streaming. I mean, I'm not talking to you about that.
No.
Talking to the YouTubers. And it was interesting because for seltzer, kind of their unicorn is men 35 to 54 who are the primary, beer drinkers, right? And so to get a male in that cohort who was admitting to drinking seltzer would be, a thing. And so we, they want to know what was a demo of DarkSecretPlace and my Twitter feed and all this. And I said, well, it's a military themed show, foreign policy, gun rights, Second Amendment, and all that. And in the end, they said, well, we're not sure
This sausage is perfection.
if that's the demo that we're aiming for. And I said, you mean the demo that spends money? In other words? And I said, I don't know why you wouldn't, if you're trying to get men 35 to 64, but apparently their money isn't good enough if they listen to a conservative guy doing, a military themed show. They said, well, yeah, it's not really our image. And I said, well, aren't you eating your own tail? Didn't you ask me down here to a unnamed coastal city? Didn't you ask me down here because you do want to get access to those people? And now you're saying that's not your target? So fuck them. I won't tell you the name of the place, but they're currently not reaching anybody. And I was put in touch with the marketing person because the marketing person talked to somebody in the business that I know who said, if you want men 35 to 54, talk to this guy. He does a show in KFI. So they reached out to me, and and we have that meeting, and I could see them turning their noses up because it's one of these seltzers with the pastel colored, it's a thin can, a thin Michelob Ultra can, and they, the idea of changing the color scheme to being something that men would like, it's just not what they were, not the segment they were going after. So in other words, you're already getting segments of women and all that, but the segment you can't get, men 35 to 54, which is a radio cohort. That's why I'm here. But anyway, kind of frustrating because
What a sausage fest.
that's what I said. What a sausage fest. So that's how that went down. All right. I gotta go close the studio door. BRB. 49-45. Lane Kiffin's revenge. All right. If you subscribe to the Connect Pal podcast, tonight's KFI show might be a bit redundant.
This sausage is perfection. What a sausage fest.
I've never emptied the recycle bin. By the way, thanks to the 419th Flight Test Squadron for this silent sting. for this lovely mug. Top Chops beef jerky.
What a sausage fest.
Okay, so I will open up. I gotta remember to do this shit before we go live. All right, I will open up a YouTube window so I can answer chat. You know, you understand the rules are when this mic goes on, you don't hear anything that I'm playing on the air. Now that there's gonna be tonight. What is this ad they have before my live stream?
Here's why. First, let's define a comfortable shoe. For most people,
Who saw zero
let's define
shoes?
a comfortable shoe. For most people,
XERO, zero shoes. Shawnee and Shoney Show, everybody. Right back here, the City of Angels. How you doing? Zero shoes, XERO. All right, like it says, remember to guard your privacy. Here, I'll move the camera so I don't have to look so like that. And then I'm on the Twitter. What hat did I bring? Oh, here we go. There you go. San Francisco Seals, everybody. How you doing? The name of the Giants mascot. By the way, the Giants, their mascot is not a giant; it's a seal. But the seal's name is Lou Seal. See, it's a boy, LOUSEAL. Yes. Curious if that's not available anymore. Whatever could have happened? F the Dodgers, but yeah. So our dog, Lucille, sort of notionally, I say their name is Lou Seal, even though she's a female. It's kind of an inside joke because my daughter and I are Giants fans. Let's see, can I go like this? No, I won't. Where can I put it? How about, I'll go like that, but anyway.
Bins will be placed at sanitation yards in Sun Valley, Northridge, South LA, North Central LA, West LA, and San Pedro, and blankets can be dropped off from 9 to 4 weekdays starting Monday through October 30th. You can find addresses for the blanket drop-off bins and more information about the program at lacity.san.org. Amy King, KFI News. We've got a work zone on the 60th.
This is in Riverside on the 60 West
Hi, everybody. Want to see?
Your drop set?
Want to see? Yep. I'm going to show you my head moon score, but it's from when I was 9 in Hawaii. I think you can see it. You can see it there and there.
Weather from KFI, partly cloudy for tonight, lows in the upper 50s to mid 60s on Sunday, highs in the 70s at the beaches to around 80 inland for Metro LA. Highs in the 80s for the valley, highs in the 70s to 80s in inland Orange County, highs in the 80s in the IE.
My headphone volume. See, you're not going to be able to hear the drop. Actually, you'll hear the drops.
71. We leave local, live from the KFI 24-hour newsroom. I'm Claudette Stefanian.
This sausage is perfection.
Oh, fuck. I forgot to play. This is library. Yeah, I can. This is as high as I can get the studio monitor, but it's all going to cut off, when I turn the mic on.
What a sausage fest.
KFI AM 640, live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app. It is the Dark Secret Place, your weekly look at the world melting down, and a lot of meltage all over the world. We'll give you the latest on the what they're calling a ceasefire in the Caucasus between the Armenian enclave of Nagorno-Karabakh, or Astrakh, as perhaps you've learned to say, and the surrounding country, Azerbaijan. But a whole lot of local tie-in, obviously, with several 100,000 ethnic Armenians in Southern California alone, nearly 1 million in California, including a former governor, George Dukmajian. So a lot of people very, very interested with direct connections. And let me just say to all of you in the Armenian community who reached out to me, giving me direct sources, thank you very much. I actually have more than I need. And so I've been in direct contact with a lot of people in the capital of Nagorno-Karabakh, Stepanakert, is your phrase that pays on that one. And here's the thing, they don't want to use their voices on the air, but I've gotten a lot of information, direct firsthand information. And so thanks to all of you who've helped me with that. And thanks to some of my old sources here on Olive Avenue, by the way, for direct phone numbers to their brothers and the like that are there. There's a certain style. There's a certain store that specializes in a certain product up and down Olive Avenue, and if many of them are Syrian Christians, but then many others are Armenians, including Armenians from Nagorno-Karabakh. So we'll get to that. Also, North Korea with a very, very unusual military parade today, honoring the 75th anniversary of the formation of the Korean Workers' Party. Because there ain't no party like a Korean Workers' Party, because the Korean Workers' Party will just suppress the hell out of you over 3 generations. A brand new, gigantic, thick, as the kids are saying, ICBM. We still don't know the name, but anyway, we'll talk about that. And then the insurrectionists, these guys in Michigan, at the risk of providing a useful critique, I'll tell you why what they were doing was just really, really dumb. And besides the obvious thing, which is, well, wait, you can just simply vote the governor out of office the next time, and she's done a bang-up job of getting people who once liked her to not like her anymore. But still, though, an elected official in America, you don't assassinate him. That's never ended well. So we'll get to all that, and then my working theory, which I don't want to draw too much from an obscure movie, but there's a movie called Eagle Has Landed, Perhaps you've seen it from a Jack Higgins novel. I forgot. But anyway, great movie. Michael Caine, Donald Sutherland, Robert Duvall, right? All in one movie. The Eagle Has Landed. It's about a fictional episode in World War II where the Nazis sent commandos dressed as free Polish guys to England to assassinate Churchill, right? And at the beginning of the movie, it's a ludicrous idea. It's an absolutely ridiculous idea, but Robert Duvall is told to go make a study. And as he studies it, he realizes, wow, this could maybe actually work. I have the right guys. Churchill's going to be at his country cabin. This might actually work. Okay, so here's the thing, and I'm on the record. You can check the Twitter feed from the night before last and the day before last. By the way, at DarkSecretPlace on Twitter, when Nancy Pelosi had her press conference where she was announcing that she favors forming a commission, sort of a preparatory commission, just in case the 25th Amendment has to be invoked. Of course, that's the amendment about how to remove a president who's mentally or physically incapable of completing his term, and all that. And her reason for doing this was because she was saying that Trump clearly was not in his right mind over the last few days since he's gotten out of Walter Reed, where he was evidently on some sort of steroid that 9 out of 10 Democratic-leaning medical specialists on MSNBC say is changing his judgment and the whole thing. So that was her casus belli on this one. This was her reason to get out there because she was all concerned about Trump. But I immediately saw through it. And I retweeted the story about Pelosi talking about the 25th Amendment. And I said, Operation Kamala 21 has commenced. And I even did Roman numerals to make it all that more ominous, right? And that seems to be where a lot of people are stuck. That's what it is she couldn't do it. If their plan is for Biden to resign right after he takes the inauguration so that Kamala is president, you couldn't start that then. You have to do it when Trump is president because no Democrat would disagree with that because, of course, he's crazy, isn't he? They should have done this 3 years ago and all that. So that's the Trojan horse, as if Kamala's not enough of a Trojan horse. But that's the Trojan horse, right? And I was going to leave it all alone. I was going to just leave it at that. Operation Kamala. That Biden, she's otherwise underwhelming to all Democrats. She didn't make it to Iowa. Word is people who spend time around her, now that she doesn't need your favors anymore to get somewhere, he said tangentially. Now that she's pure, unadulterated Kamala, no one can stand her. So there's that, right? I was going to leave it at that. That she couldn't bring this up when Biden was president. But if that's the plan, she has to set those wheels in motion now. And then that way, when Biden's obvious cognitive decline becomes even more obvious, then they can gracefully invoke the 25th Amendment. He doesn't resign, and off he goes, and she's president. Well, okay, I was going to leave it at that, and then today the other shoe dropped. And if you follow me on Twitter, you know what I'm about to say. Today, the November-December issue of Foreign Affairs magazine dropped online, and your copy will be in the mail. I'm not kidding about obscure magazine. This is not foreignpolicy.com online. This is Foreign Affairs. If you don't know this, Foreign Affairs has a list of worldwide political luminaries writing columns and articles. It is a publication of record. So out of the clear blue sky today, a foreign policy document was dropped, a white paper about the future of defense spending and foreign policy. It would be, if you were president, it would be a significant speech. If you were running for president, this would be the Obama foreign policy is going to be announced at West Point in a 2-hour speech or whatever. That would be what this was. You know who published this under her byline, under her name? There's a clue. It was Hillary Clinton. Out of the clear blue sky in October of 2020, Hillary Clinton is laying out a future defense spending and diplomacy versus defense foreign policy. I mean, a major foreign policy and defense speech given as a article in foreignaffairs.com. I tweeted out a link to it. And I mean, it's arcane. It is in the weeds. She or whoever wrote, whatever team wrote this for her. And by the way, it has Leon Panetta's fingerprints all over it. Ben Rhodes, the rest of the Obama crew and some of the Clinton crew. But she gets into the weeds about aircraft carrier readiness and availability because of onerous maintenance schedules. I mean, I copied and pasted a bit of it. And then it struck me. Kamala is the Trojan horse. That this 25th Amendment thing, all this 25th Amendment thing leads to a scenario. And this is my eagle has landed moment. This is where I turned into Robert Duvall. When he saw all this stuff in the movie and it's coming together. And he realizes, wow, as crazy as it seems, we can have a reasonable chance at succeeding in kidnapping or assassinating Winston Churchill. I forgot the goal in Eagle has Landed was to kidnap Churchill. So that was when I realized, oh, that's what this is about. Because this has never happened in the American Constitution or in American history, but a president-elect and a vice president-elect, before the Electoral College convenes, the vice president-elect can resign. And then the president-elect with the executive committee of his own party get to decide on who the new vice president-elect is. So now is when you have to put put yourself in the mind of one of the most loathed politicians in American history, Hillary Clinton. If you're her, what happened in 2016? The election was stolen. If you're a Democrat, the election was stolen. She won the popular vote, but it was stolen. So turnabout is fair play. So if Kamala Harris resigns on November 10th, she remains a U.S. Senator from California. And she's only, 49, 51, whatever it is. In politics, she's a young woman. I mean, I know Dianne Feinstein has a pretty high bar, but still, Kamala's very young. So she resigns. She remains a U.S. Senator because Joe Biden and the Democratic Party committee name Hillary Clinton as the new vice president-elect, and Bob's your uncle. I'm not saying I buy this. I'm just saying it's weird how this came together in my mind after I saw a major foreign policy white paper out of the clear blue sky, out of someone who hasn't held office in years and is supposed to not matter anymore. But in her mind, she's looking at her second term. She should have been president these last 4 years. Anyway, bounce that around your own noggin. Tell me try to shoot holes in it. I want to see why that can't be. And you know why? Because 2020, in my book, hasn't been crazy enough yet. Back in a second to see Dark Secret Place. Live streaming, by the way, on YouTube at unsheepyourself.com. So go to unsheepyourself.com. That's a redirect to the YouTube page. And I'll answer your questions during the commercials and stuff like that. It's the Dark Secret Place, KFI, AM 640, live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app. Let's check in with the KFI newsroom. What's your name again? Oh, yeah, there you go. Yeah. I wish she'd stop breathing helium before her newscast.
Go right ahead.
Yeah, if I write it on a piece of paper, then I turn it over or lose a piece of paper or whatever.
Visit replacementmadeeasy.com and download your free
Load it.
guide from the experts at Harvard. This informative guide will walk you through the basics.
Steph, not Steph, right?
Stefania.
F or
PHF, whatever.
oh.
The guide explains the different types of windows and doors, the materials they're made with, and ultimately how they will perform. Plus, it has a handy list of things to
Well, he was close. Now they're getting blown out. He just wanted to scare Lou anyway. I mean, what's his name? Saban anyway.
ReplacementMadeEasy.com. That's ReplacementMadeEasy.com.
Did Alabama end up pulling it out?
Yeah, 13 seconds at 63-48.
Oh, okay.
But he had him. It was 45-48.
We have crash in the carpool lane there. Watch for some stop and go traffic from Inglewood Avenue.
Yeah, it's a real gray area after the election. If the incumbent didn't win, or he's terming out after 2 terms, after the election is done, but before the Electoral College casts their votes,
Unbound.org. KFI and Sky helps get you there faster. Up Ryan fans.
there's federal law, and because the Constitution doesn't really get into it, but what's been agreed is that the vice president-elect can resign, and then they have to name a new one. If the president-elect resigns, then the vice president-elect becomes president-elect. And remember, the Electoral College are voting for a ticket, right? There was a time that the vice president was the runner-up, and they finally realized what a complete goat fuck of executive branch that was. What's that?
Claudette's trying to talk to you.
Oh, she can't because of the talkback.
And every tech is extremely friendly. In other words, Mike Diamond Plumbing has been nothing short of miraculous.
Yeah, tell her there's a stuck talkback button.
Brian, can you hear me now?
Oh, yeah.
Sorry about that. So I'm really glad to hear that you're doing the conflict over in Azerbaijan. It's been really, really crazy. So I've had a lot of people, obviously people that I know personally. Obviously, I'm a journalist, so I have to remain unbiased. But I can tell you, there's been a lot of emotions coming from the Armenian community.
Yeah. Like I say, last Saturday, I got a bunch of emails from people saying, where are you? How come you're not on the air and all this? And they were like, here's my brother's number. He's in Stepanakert. And then, digital introductions. And so I've been DMing on Twitter with a whole bunch of people who are physically in Stepanakert. And one guy was FaceTiming me when some rockets came in.
Yeah, there's been some crazy pieces done by Vice Media as well as PBS NewsHour where they actually went to kind of ground zero and checked it out for themselves. I mean, the devastation is insane.
And it's funny because they're still playing, both sides are playing with one hand behind their back because, their puppet masters, Putin and Erdogan, are telling their guys, look, don't get too crazy because it's going to wind up being Turkey versus Russia.
Was he satisfied? Yeah, when I told him you just want people to like you, he started.
2 minutes.
No, it's really insane, the
Yeah.
geopolitics of all of that. And yeah, the parties that are getting involved and Turkey now stepping in to back Azerbaijan. I mean, it's a mess.
Yeah.
I just told him to walk out in the warehouse and ask the other AC technicians. He came back a few minutes later with his eyebrows jacked up on his forehead 2.5 inches. He looked at me and shouted, Zach, I want to work for Gel. GOETTL.com.
Howdy, everybody.
In a small get-together, you'll need cups, plates, burgers, chips, masks, outdoor air, 6 feet of distance, as few people as possible.
So we'll get into North Korea
Risk of spreading COVID-19 is on your list for your next small gathering.
next hour, and then this insurgency. And I brought my Unconventional Warfare pocket guide. Though this isn't the actual pocket guide. This is the PDF printed large. Well, in all fairness, I said it.
And you deserve a Medicare plan that fits your unique needs. That's why United Healthcare is offering more plan options than ever, so you can find just the right plan for you. Call 1-800-362-8715. That's 1-800-362-8715 to get Medicare with more. Remember, Medicare annual enrollment ends December 7th.
Hiring can be challenging, but ZipRecruiter makes it fast and easy. We talked to Monica Starks, who needed to hire for her company, GS Group.
Yeah, that's why it's hard. I have the the real copy is like a Ranger handbook, only it's thinner and it's on plastic cardstock. And it's really good. It's very good, but it's a skeleton. If you get this without the training or experience, it doesn't really mean a heck of a lot. So
Employee of the month. Hi, Rick Johnson. I'm the digital content manager here at KFI. I actually enjoy
Yeah.
writing novels. You know what I was thinking about that might have been funny?
Is it true?
I came on here saying, I don't really want to promote myself. I want to promote good causes.
Well, I can't ask you this.
Money to the wildfires. And then I go into the little pitch of it, and then I go, and then by the way, go wildfires.
Yeah.
And you cut me off before I can tell everybody where I can buy it. Okay, I think we got the idea. Congratulations to Rick Johnson. KFI's October 20th Employee of the Month.
KFI AM 640. More stimulating talk.
Hey, going all the way back to 1966, everybody. The Sonics, have love, will travel. KFI AM 640. It is DarkSecretPlace. Brian Suits in here until 11. It's our weekly look at the world melting down, and the world's been melting down now for about 2 weeks in the Caucasus. And the situation now after 14 days appears to have calmed down for a little bit. But there's two different stories. There's supposed to be a ceasefire between the ethnic Armenian enclave called Nagorno-Karabakh or Ostrak. If you around the LA area, on the 170, on the 405, of course on the 210, on the pedestrian overpasses, you see Armenian flags with hashtag Astrak, ASTRAKH. And I have found out from my the referrals that I got to people who are physically in there that that is what they call it, that they don't use the term Nagorno-Karabakh, and that in its capital, Stepanakert, you probably shouldn't call it Nagorno-Karabakh. If you just showed up from BBC or whomever, and you're saying, I'm just happy to be here in Nagorno-Karabakh, they may act like they don't know what you're saying, because that's a Soviet-era name, and it uses Azerbaijani words. Astrakh is the ethnic Armenian term for this enclave. Some other local impacts about this, so that there's a lot of people asking how to help, and they're buying first aid combat gear to send to Armenia. How it gets into Astrakh from Armenia is a bit dicey, because the Azerbaijanis are enforcing effectively a blockade. But there's a ceasefire right now. And according to the Azerbaijani side, it is a ceasefire simply for the purpose of exchanging prisoners and the dead. And according to the Armenian side, again, the Republic of Armenia is not this island, this enclave in the middle of Azerbaijan. But obviously, they support Astrakh. They're not firing shots from Armenian soil. That's a line that the Armenians haven't crossed yet. The Azerbaijanis accuse them of that, and that would be a different kettle of fish. But this ceasefire is notionally, according to Moscow, it's a ceasefire till further notice. It's exchange prisoners and also give the enemy back their dead. And if you've been watching this unfold on video for the past 14 days, you've seen there are numerous land battles where the Azerbaijanis have overrun Armenian positions, and the dead are scattered about. And then the Armenians have retaken some of those positions, and dead Azerbaijanis are scattered about. And what I've seen, to be honest with you, I've seen them, both sides take care to not be defiling each other's dead because they know that they may be prisoners tomorrow or the next day or the next day. So there seems to be a respect for that. And this ceasefire for the purpose of exchanging prisoners and the dead would bear that out, by the way. Both sides immediately accuse the other of violating the ceasefire, and since that's the way it is, there's no way to figure out who did it or whatever. But by and large, it's probably holding. Don't hold your breath for that to happen, or I mean, for it to continue to hold. Who is winning so far? Well, the Azerbaijanis had a plan and they had momentum, and they have on two different fronts in sort of a pincer movement in the south and the north. Have taken significant, well, not significant, they've taken nearly 100 square miles of Nagorno-Karabakh, Ostrak, in the 14 days. Can they hold it? We don't know. And who are the puppet masters here? Is Putin calling the shots for Armenia? And is President Erdogan of Turkey, still ostensibly a NATO ally, calling the shots for Azerbaijan? Or are these guys just the arms dealers? And whose technology is possibly changing warfare in the future? The answer may surprise you. We'll be back right after this. It is the Dark Secret Place. Brian sits in here till 11, KFI, AM 640, live everywhere on the iHeart Radio app. Claudette Stefani with the news.
The White House has blocked the CDC from ordering all passengers and workers on public and commercial transportation.
And you may not have heard this. You might have. Claudette, the anchor, is Armenian, and she's pointing out, I can't, I'm a news person, I can't pick a side, so there's that.
Come in here real quick.
I have to go talk about secret shit. I'll be right back.
Delta made landfall in Louisiana as a Category 2 storm. The National Hurricane Center says the storm is weakened to a tropical storm. A storm surge warning has been issued for the entire coastline of Louisiana and parts of Texas and Mississippi. Louisiana is experiencing heavy flooding. Anti-mask protests have broken out in Rome, even as coronavirus cases have spiked in the country. The health ministry reported more than 5,700 confirmed cases in 24 hours and 29 deaths. Officials saying most people who tested positive were asymptomatic. Protesters say COVID rules are too harsh, including a new order for all Italians to wear masks indoors or out, or face up to $1,200 in fines. Just over 36,000 people have died of COVID-19 in Italy. We've got trouble on the 405.
This is on the 405 northbound at Rosecrans in the city of Hawthorne. We have cleanup crews from an earlier crash taking up the carpool and left lanes here. Drive is starting to stack up well before Inglewood. And in the city of Mountain Valley, this is on the 405 southbound right before Brookhurst. There's a cleanup crews from an earlier crash there. They're out of lanes and on the right shoulder, but watch for some looky-loo delays as you approach Riverside. We have that work zone 60 westbound from just before the 50 to Archibald. 3 right lanes going to be shut down for road work until 5 a.m. Monday morning. Your drive is starting to slow up from just before Mission. KFI and this guy helps get you there faster. I'm Brian Vance.
What does COVID-19 have to do with losing your home? Well, a lot. Cybercrime is up 75% since the virus hit us. Rudy Giuliani here, and if you own a home or property, look out for home title theft. One of the fastest growing crimes. The legal titles to all our homes are online now. All thieves have to do is forge your signature on a quitclaim deed stating you sold your home. Then they take out loan after loan on your home and leave you in debt. You won't know until late payment or eviction notices show up. Homeowners insurance doesn't cover you, and neither do common identity theft programs. That's why I protect my home with Home Title Lock. Home Title Lock puts a barrier around your home's title. The instant they detect tampering, they shut it down. Go to HometitleLock.com and register your address to see if you're already a victim. Then use code Rudy for 30 free days of protection. I protect my home with Home Title Lock.
Oh, shit.
Register your address to see if you're already a victim.
So, yeah, I don't know if you guys heard about this, but CHP West Valley stopped a car that didn't brake, right? And, wait, how much time? Oh. And so they stopped a car for a red light, searched the car. The driver was acting nervous. Driver was prior felon, of course. They searched the car. There's all kinds of meth, opioids, Suboxone, all this crap. And then a 80% AR-15, short-barreled AR-15 with a pistol buffer, and then two 1911s, 80% 1911s. I mean, it's quite a haul. And CHP West Valley, their punchline, the title of the article on Facebook was Breaking Bad instead of breaking for a red light. So fucking funny.
You got 2 minutes.
Okay.
Mothers Against Drunk Driving supports Prop 22.
By the way, yes on Prop 22.
Preserving access to
Fuck
medicine
Lorena
services
Gonzalez
across California.
and her stupid union bosses.
California Army National Guard, aired by the California Broadcasters Association.
Some killers from their new album, everybody. Yeah, the only thing, all of AB5 needs to be repealed. You know, the idea that, okay, if you're one of these, and now it'll be gig economy drivers. Okay, you don't have to have an employer. But it still forces a whole bunch of other people, you know, to, because, I mean, literally from Connect, pal, I work for myself. I can't be, I cannot have my own business doing a subscription podcast. At connectpal.com, DarkSecretPlace. But she's Lorena Gonzalez is a pure creation of unions. That's all she is. So any chance she gets to demonize business and somehow claim that everybody needs to have a boss, because that's what it is. We just want people to be treated right. KFI AM 640, it's a Dark Secret Place. Brian Suits here until 11 with the world melting down, paying attention to the conflict in the Caucasus with a lot of local implications with the ethnic Armenian enclave called Astrak being attacked. And by the way, if you're looking for, well, who attacked who? As an American, you would say, well, Azerbaijan 2 weeks ago, unprovoked, began a deliberate pre-planned ground assault into this enclave, because that's what happened. You don't just go from a standing start to assault order with artillery coordination and air support and whole thing, unless it was a plan. Okay, there's that. Now, if you talk to people from the Caucasus, they'll say, well, no, that's not what it was. It was that in 1994, after the Soviet Union broke up. Well, I learned that in the Balkans, that you can't just, this one time in the Balkans, we were on the side of a mountain called Mount Vis. And there was an old World War II era Soviet T-34 tank there. But it was painted in the colors of the Bosnian Serb army. And and I said to my translator, I pointed to the tank. And I said, what happened here? Was this 95? And he thought I was like pointing to the mountain. But I said, what happened here? And he said, well, in 1257, the Ottoman Turks came in. It's like, please, is there a short version? And Americans always want the short version. And you can't look at this conflict in the Caucasus with its layers of complexity and say, just give me the short version. Because the short version is that if you're Armenian, it looks like Erdogan wants to redo the genocide from 102 years ago. First of all, the U.S. Senate, the U.S. government called it genocide, earlier this year. Erdogan, of course, went bananas, as he does. He's got 0 to bananas. Okay, my amplifier goes from 0 to 11. His goes from 0 to bananas. And don't ever use the word genocide and the whole thing. So you understand, passions are at a fever pitch. So when Erdogan backs Azerbaijan in their desire to retake this area that's overwhelmingly ethnically Armenian, then you understand you're pulling at some very sensitive historic strings there, which is why Erdogan's doing it. Initially and so far, the Azerbaijanis have had tremendous success using a weapon that we've seen in Syria, and that is the suicide drone, the suicide UAV. And one of the ones that the Azerbaijanis had early success with, and here's the deal, this is what's called a loitering weapon. You launch it 10 kilometers away from the suspected target area. Artillery's coming from this one grid square 5 kilometers away. You launch several of these drones and the operators fly them individually, give them an area to go to, and then they begin scanning with the optics. And they discover some Armenian T-72s that are in dugout revetments that from the ground you wouldn't be able to see. But the drone is circling above at about 60 miles an hour, just making circles at 2,000 feet. Nobody down there can hear it. And the operator, the Azerbaijani operator, then designates a target and then guides that drone down onto the T-72. And if it doesn't destroy it outright, it immobilizes it. And this has been a devastating weapon unveiled by the Azerbaijanis, which many of us have known about for years. One of the earliest ones was made in Monrovia at AeroVironment, Monrovia/Simi Valley, where they test them and stuff. The Azerbaijanis have done very, very well with this kind of weapon because very quietly, the people supplying them with the weapon are Israel Aircraft Industries, because IAI has made the Sky Striker drone for nearly a decade now. Many people operate them. The Israelis operate them. Azerbaijan operates them. The Israelis have been on the ground in Azerbaijan since the late 90s. When I was in Baku interviewing for Radio Free Europe, Voice of America, the hotel I was in was filled with U.S. Special Forces and Israeli guys, Israeli civilians. For Israel, Azerbaijan is a strategic ally because, if I remind you of how the map works, Azerbaijan has a lengthy southern border with the northern border of Iran. And in any future Israeli strike on Iranian nuclear forces, the search and rescue on the part of the Israelis for downed pilots would originate in Azerbaijan. Worst kept secret about the future strike, the future joint Israeli-Arab strike on Iran. So Iran, not a big fan of Azerbaijan, which might confuse you at this point. Because wait, aren't they all Muslims? Well, they'll play that card when it's convenient. In this case, Azerbaijan has made it crystal clear they're not too tight with Iran's flavor of Islam. And the Iranians, therefore, have declared that the Azerbaijanis are, of course, heretics, and even worse, they're apostates. They know the true way, but they're not. But they're in bed with the Jews, and so the enmity between Azerbaijan and Iran can't be adequately expressed. So this is where the strange bedfellows come in. Iran also shares a border with Armenia, and if you don't know this, Armenia is a branch of the Eastern Orthodox. The Armenian Orthodox Church is a branch of the Eastern Orthodox Church. You can see the brand new church is right off I-5 at the western end of Burbank. Copper dome, beautiful place. It's big here. And they are Orthodox Christians. Are they not? Well, yes, the Iranians, because the Armenians are fighting with Azerbaijan, the Iranians suddenly are friends with Armenia a lot more than they have been, which, by the way, the Azerbaijani-Armenian border has been the number one way for blockade breaking, spare parts, and other things like that to get into Iran. So the Iranians have been in a relationship with the Armenians for a long, 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 long time. Now, who is backing Armenia? Well, you got the best guy in that time zone is behind Armenia, and he's in Moscow, named Vladimir Putin. The Armenian armed forces operate almost exclusively Soviet-era Russian-made weapons. Same with the Azerbaijanis, by the way. So they know each other's systems, with a couple exceptions. The Azerbaijanis have other lethal weaponry supplied by Israel, and they've already used it in the form of cluster munitions that have been undeniably targeted on civilian areas. There was a pretty well documented rocket attack on the capital of Ostrak, Nagorno-Karabakh, the capital Stepanakert, and the unexploded munitions that were left behind showed that it was from an Israeli rocket system that the Azerbaijanis had a contract with 5 years ago. These things have been sitting in the barn. Now they're using them, and they're using them undeniably. They're using already a banned weapon, cluster munitions, and they're using them in the most banned way against civilian areas. Because in the map recon that I did, and then the people in Stepanakert that I was talking directly to, I asked them, is there anything? Is there a barracks? Is there a ministry of war crimes, a ministry of defense? Are there any government offices where those cluster munitions hit? And if you follow my Twitter feed, you go back about a week, you'll see this, what apparently was dashboard footage or something, but someone had a camera on a street in a civilian neighborhood of apartments and a wooded, a wooded street. Okay, tall, mature overgrowth on a street full of cars parked. And Azerbaijani cluster munitions hit in several waves on this street. And there's not a military legitimate target anywhere, according to my sources there. And what they told me checks out on Google Earth. And so there's no doubt at this point that the Azerbaijanis were targeting civilian areas. Now, in turn, the Azerbaijanis are claiming that Armenia proper, not the independent Ostrak Armenian enclave, but the actual Republic of Armenia launched rockets at Azerbaijan. Now, the evidence that they provided actually shows that it did not come from Armenia, because I used to do that, which is what's called crater analysis, where I could look at a crater and the leftovers of a rocket and tell you the azimuth, the back azimuth where it was shot from, and probably within a kilometer or two of where it was launched. Anyway, so from what I've seen, the first use of outlawed weapons, cluster munitions, specifically against a civilian area, was by the Azerbaijanis. And so we'll be back right after this. More on this, more local fallout on the Armenia-Azerbaijan conflict when we come back. It is the Dark Secret Place, KFI AM 640, live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app. Claudette Stefanian with the news.
The White House has blocked the CDC from ordering all passengers and workers on public and commercial transportation to wear masks to slow the spread of COVID-19. PG&E officials apparently
All right, what do I miss in the chat? Let me get to the chat.
Aerial tramway has reopened after being shut down for more than 6 months because of the pandemic. We've got issues on the 60 Minutes.
Mike Diamond came.
They're all talking about how you were suspended.
No, not mine. Dana's.
Dana?
She's in Anaheim. I'm reading her testimonial on MikeDiamond.com.
Aren't they the smell good plumbers?
Well, I've never personally smelled them, but I know good with. She wrote, Mike Diamond came to my rescue within an hour of me calling. Not only did they assist me, but my dad too.
Yeah, this.
Very professional and very fast. Love, love, love.
That's a lot of love for a plumber.
She gave him a 5-star review.
5 stars? I rarely give anybody 5 stars.
You don't have enough love in your heart.
You saying I should smell my plumber?
No.
This is like 2 seconds behind.
Like Dana's, you should call the Smell Good Plumbers.
I'm Mike Diamond. I guarantee my plumbers will show up on time and smell good. Or your house call is free. Read a few of the testimonials and then book your appointment online at MikeDiamond.com or just call us at 1-800-446-MIKE.
Yeah, if you don't subscribe to connectpal.com, I just sent the link. I realize, you know what I realized? I'm doing this. Oh no, I'm on the right thing. If you don't subscribe to this YouTube channel, there's a two-step process. Number one, defuck yourself. Then number two, click on the little Dark Secret Place tiger there, and you'll subscribe down there. And then I'll like you. But yeah, just as I said on Twitter, because of the current state of our business, I'm going to be cutting off. I'm going to be capping the subscriptions on connectpal.com. So if you go to that link up there, connectpal.com/darksecretplace, then we can talk freely.
Registration, driver's license, and more. Online from the safety of home, all while protecting yourself and others. Stay safe, stay home, do it online. Visit dmv.ca.gov to get started today. dmv.ca.gov.
And
Protect yourself when an earthquake strikes. Hey, I'm Mario Lopez. In California, earthquakes can strike anytime. So, practicing
yeah, and then you can archive on ConnectPal. You get access to the archive all the way back to 2014. I'm kind of got my fill of me, but I have found out that a lot of people go back and kind of check my work. But ConnectPal, like PayPal, but Connect, ConnectPal, connectpal.com, Dark Secret Place. Can you read that?
I'm United States Surgeon General Jerome Adams, America's doctor. And all across our nation, we've taken steps together to slow the spread of coronavirus. Now we must continue to take personal responsibility to protect ourselves and our loved ones. Because even though not all of us risk a severe case of coronavirus, we all risk getting it and spreading it to others, maybe without even realizing that we're sick. So if we want to get back to school, back to work, back to worship, and back to overall health, there are things our country needs to do. We need to follow state and local guidelines, take extra precautions if at higher risk, wash our hands frequently, stay 6 feet from others when we
2 minutes.
And when we can't stay 6 feet from others, please, I'm begging you, wear a face cover. These small actions will make a...
By the way, I tweeted out the bumper list earlier, earlier today. If you are so inclined to give a shit about my the bumpers. This is space. You and me versus the world.
So don't settle for anything less than the best. And get to your local Ford dealer for a test drive today. Tell them EV sent you.
Planning a small get-together? You'll need cups, plates, burgers, chips, masks, outdoor air, 6 feet of distance, as few people as possible, and plenty of hand soap. Make sure lowering the risk of spreading COVID-19 is on your list for your next small gathering.
While it is safest not to gather, these tips can help you lower the risk if you do. Do your part.
power to lower the risk. Learn more at covid19.ca.gov. Brought to you by the Center at Sierra Health Foundation.
We all know the importance of voting, but you can't vote if you aren't registered. Check your registration status with Global Citizen and Headcount to make sure you're ready for this year's election. Visit Global
Interesting addition. My scenario about Hillary, this is what a guy says. Now you're getting it. Couple additions. Biden stays in place for 3 months to slowly reveal the rapid debilitation caused by Parkinson's. He doesn't have Parkinson's. Very sad. After crooked Hillary is installed, haircut gruesome takes over as VP. Hildebeest gets her. Anyway, you get it. That he has a scenario where Gavin Newsom is named VP because he's the future of the Democratic Party.
More stimulating talk.
KFI AM 640. Did my voice just crack? I'm a man. Live everywhere on the on the iHeartRadio app. It is the Dark Secret Place talking about the latest developments out of the Armenian enclave that is called locally Astrak, and by the U.S. media, Nagorno-Karabakh. And sort of the deadlock that we're at now is that the Azerbaijanis appeared to have a good assault plan for 3 days. And I think they assumed that the enemy would collapse before them. The Astrak, the local military are not officially connected with the Republic of Armenia army. They're not as well equipped. But they did a lot better than it would appear the Azerbaijanis thought they would, which is funny because they have near total air superiority on this because Erdogan has forward deployed Turkish Air Force F-16s in Azerbaijan. So this is the part where NATO was trying to talk sense into Erdogan, saying, do you understand when you get involved in your empire building wars, you're a NATO nation? And that we're just afraid that if Putin defends his ally Armenia and shoots down a Turkish F-16, you're going to invoke Article 5 and say that you were attacked. And you understand, you sending your Air Force to Azerbaijan so it can shoot down Armenian aircraft, that's not self-defense. And I think he understands that. I think he's taking that calculated risk. As I say, you can see by the day warfare changing as the combat use of the suicide drone has proven the concept. The investment of $100,000 in a pilotless aircraft with a 11 kilogram warhead, about 35-pound warhead, smashing into the top. The most vulnerable part of a tank is the top of the turret. And attacking downward and destroying a tank. Even if it's not destroyed, it's incapacitated, it's out of the fight. And you can just sense from Washington, D.C., from the Pentagon to Moscow to all around the world, people are paying attention to this conflict and they're seeing how effective it's the most effective thing that the Azerbaijanis are doing in terms of using force against actual combat troops. Now, for their part, the Armenians do have some systems, but nowhere near what the Azerbaijanis have been supplied by the Israelis with. And also the Israeli systems are just better. The other thing that's going on, that's being confirmed, Putin got pantsed. He had his trousers taken down in Libya earlier this year because one of his number one arms exports is a wheeled anti-aircraft system. And it is vaunted by the Russians. It's supposed to be a perfect system, affordable from Venezuela to Abu Dhabi, because it can engage everything from helicopters at 100 feet above tree level up to 10,000 feet, tactical aircraft. Well, the problem is, the Achilles heel, apparently, is that it can't detect drones. Because in Libya so far, with the Russians supplying the Libyan government of national accord, they've been. Oh, I'm sorry. The other side, the Libyan National Army, the rebel guys, they've been rolling along with this Russian Pantsir system. They've had a few with Russian operators. Okay, and they've been destroyed. They have every one of them that hit the ground in Libya has been destroyed by a drone that probably cost as much as a spare tire. And in all the video, these things don't alert, they don't power up, they don't look like they're trying to shoot back. And over the past 14 days, if you were in the pipeline to send a check to Moscow for that anti-aircraft system, you're probably putting a stop payment on that check, because if there are any successes on the ground, they're not becoming obvious. So what might happen is it would appear that Putin wants to broker a peace. His number one goal is to stop the bleeding, stop the embarrassment of some of his weapon systems, and just make it go back to the pre-war borders. If Erdogan doesn't want to hear about that, then Putin can turn up the heat. And his next maneuver, if answer A is not a yes, then answer B is, well, then I'm going to send peacekeepers in there. They're going to keep the peace by peacekeeping. They're really, really peaceful. I'm going to take several regiments of airborne guys, and they're going to spray paint their helmets light blue. It's not going to have a UN sanction on it whatsoever, but I'm going to call them peacekeepers, and guess what? They're going to be between the Armenians and you guys. And if one errant shot flies over the head of any of my boys, you're going to get it. Because this was his maneuver in Georgia in 2008, and it worked. Now, the difference here, though, is that about 5 days ago, 6 days ago, President Emmanuel Macron of France, the Secretary of State of the United States, Mike Pompeo, and Sergei Lavrov of Russia all issued a joint statement saying that peaceful initiatives must be found and this must be a priority and all that. This was basically us signing on to the Russian-Armenian side, effectively. Because Erdogan is not calling for peace. He's saying continued war would be foolish. Just stop and let us keep what we have. But so anyway, it's a lot more complex. A few more words on it when we come back next hour. Then we'll talk about insurrection in the United States, this plot to kidnap a seated governor of Michigan, and the gigantic parade in the middle of the night in North Korea earlier today, revealing a brand new, huge ICBM that we never knew about. That and more coming up. Hour number 2 of the Dark Secret Place, right over this at KFI AM 640. More, probably live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app.
You can listen to KFI everywhere. Notice.
KFI.
And KOST HD2.
Los Angeles, Orange County.
Live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app.
Good to go. I'm Planet Stefanian, live from the KFI 24-hour newsroom. President Donald Trump's doctor says the president is no longer at risk of transmitting the coronavirus to others, but he does not say whether Trump has tested negative. This comes as the president prepares to resume campaign rallies and other activities. News brought to you by Benjamin Moore. Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden used
Don't forget library this time.
Nevada to push his plan to handle the pandemic, which
For the
is
drought?
a nationwide
Oh, yeah.
mask mandate.
Yeah.
When asked about President Trump returning to the campaign trail, he told Trump supporters,
Well, you know, the reason for Armenian influence is because they prospered. They've done very, very well here in California over the past 100 years, extremely well. And they never came here and said, you owe us this and this and this and this. And they just came here and worked their asses off and made a lot of money. You know, like the Japanese did, like the Chinese did. And boy, you talk about institutional racism. Asians couldn't legally own property in California up until 1930 something. And you know, did you hear them whine about it? No. And for the Japanese, even though they were put in camps, you know, they still, the young men enlisted and fought bravely and became the most decorated unit in World War II history. And then they came back here after the war. and re-prospered. In many cases, Japanese had their property seized by the county they were in and then auctioned off. So the Armenians are the same way. The Armenian diaspora happened after the genocide of 1917, 18, 19. And many of them, the ones who came here were very lucky, and they did very, very well. And so they have money. You know, that's why there's an Armenian governor in California's history. Because, you know, they understood, like Asian immigrants do, when the first generation gets here, works their asses off so that the kids can get the most education they can have. And then they do that, and there you go. So, so yeah, they're very influential. And is there an Azerbaijani community in Southern California? Yeah, there is. There's a consulate, but they're outnumbered by Armenians. Is there a Turkish community? Yeah, there's a huge Turkish SoCal community, and they're influential as well, but nowhere near like the Armenians. So that's the reality of that. Who, Duke Magian?
The Dodgers are putting up 60-foot screens in Dodger Stadium parking lot so you can watch the boys in blue versus the
I think you're right. Oh yeah, Azerbaijan in the Caspian Sea, Baku. You fly into Baku and you drive through oil fields. When I went to Baku, it was like the Wild West. In 1999, it was Russian mobsters bombing around a Mercedes, American Special Forces bombing around a Mercedes. It was just crazy. Yeah, he died in 2018. Duke Magian died in 2018.
This is on the 405 northbound at Rosecrans. Cleanup crews from that earlier crash in the carpool lane. Your drive is stop and go.
83 to 91, that's right.
MTA from Riverside. We have a war zone from 60 westbound for just before the 50 to Archibald. New right lane's going to be shut down for road work until 5 a.m. Monday morning. KFI in the sky helps get you there faster on Brian Vance.
Warm temperatures headed your way. We have that next.
Do you believe in miracles?
Anthony and Gigi most certainly do. So when their sewer line burst, there was no hesitation.
They faithfully called the Smell Good plumbers at MikeDiamond.com.
Gigi says our tech Josh arrived on time and smelled good. He worked for 14 hours to get us back up and running.
Okay, but what about that miracle?
The repair took place in a tight crawl space.
There was not a headline that said that.
Much of the time, says Anthony. He completed the job while remaining upbeat and answering our every question. That alone
Screenshot or it didn't happen.
This is Anthony and Gigi's first experience with Mike Diamond Plumbing. They're always professional, quick to respond, reasonably priced.
And every tech is extremely friendly.
In other words, Mike Diamond Plumbing has been nothing short of miraculous.
I'm Mike Diamond, and I guarantee my plumbers will show up on time and smell good. Or your house.
You got your job set?
Yeah.
Schedule your service at MikeDiamond.com or call 1-800-446-MIKE.
Contractor license number 399170.
Southland weather from KFI, partly cloudy for tonight, lows upper 50s to mid 60s. On Sunday, highs in the 70s at the beaches to around 80 inland for metro LA. Highs in the 80s for the valleys, highs in the 70s to 80s in inland Orange County, highs in the 80s in the IE. In Anaheim at 75, Laguna Beach 70, Diamond Bar 72, and in Cerritos it's 74. We lead local, live from the KFI 24-hour newsroom. I'm Claudette Stefanian.
What a sausage fest. Hey, this is library.
I know. KFI, AM 640, it's hour number 2 of the Dark Secret Place live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app. Brian Suits here. Next hour, so some people emailed me and said, man, you were spot on back on January 25th about the whole COVID thing. And this is apropos of, in the vice presidential debate, Kamala Harris made the accusation that, well, you knew all this stuff back in late January and you didn't do anything about it. Not me. She was talking about Trump. And so it prompted some people to say, hey, you should audit that 9 months ago, that show that you did. If you're new to the show, to Dark Secret Place, back on January 25th, I did sort of a future War of the Worlds broadcast that was set in June of 2021, as if I was holding the CDC's final report on California's failure to address the looming COVID-19 pandemic. So I audited it, and you can audit it with me next hour. So this afternoon I audited it, and I critiqued it, and we'll play that next hour. You can play along as well with your suggestions. And I'm honest where I was wrong, and then there's quite a bit of it that I'm eerily right on, and then yeah. There's a lot of asterisks where, well, it's not fall yet. You know, there's some of it still has to play out. I gotta say, I wasn't that off with how many dead so far. I just said it would happen in a shorter amount of time because that's how 1918 happened. It was an influenza, not a coronavirus. But so anyway, later on this hour, how to not form a militia. North Korea held a bit of a party, the 75th anniversary of the KPW, the Korean Workers' Party, or Communist Party of North Korea. And Kim Jong-un used it as an opportunity to unveil some, frankly, surprising weapon systems. Everything from a new, larger ICBM that has, as of this morning, never been seen before. And there wasn't just one trundling down the parade way. There were several in a row. And right down to some small arms that we didn't know the North Koreans had. Now, granted, this isn't the entire North Korean army, but it's thousands and thousands of troops representing the North Korean naval infantry, which is their Marines, army, border guards, the whole thing. Some first impressions. And I'll send a link out to the unedited 4K 2.5 hour stream. But it's given us some insight into whether or not Corona has actually hit North Korea or not. So thing one, Kim Jong-un is wearing a Western style suit. And to be totally honest, he looks like he's lost weight. The reasoning behind that is because nobody would survive the encounter if they came to him and said, we're going to put you in a corset for 2.5 hours. Hear me out. We're going to put you in a corset for 2.5 hours and make you look thinner. Even his sister probably wouldn't be down with that. It really looks like legit he lost weight, which might give credence to, did he have the COVID 4 months ago, or one of the 5 times this year he's been declared dead? Maybe there was some sickness besides the obvious thing, which is that he is a mother-loving fat ass and the fattest man in North Korea. And I don't think that's even a debate. And so up there on the dais and the viewing stand, of course, he had rows and rows and rows of the stone-faced upper ranks of the North Korean People's Army. And these are the guys in the khaki uniforms with the rows of medals festooning their uniform from their collarbone to their scrotum on the left side and the right side. They're so awesome that they don't just wear one set of ribbons on their left chest. No. They're that much better than everyone else on Earth. They need 2 rows. They should wear 2 suits. They're going to be wearing them down the back soon. Anyway, the skill with those guys is to not crack an emotion. The only emotion acceptable is gushing tears, which on cue happened today. So Kim Jong-un gave about a 20-minute speech before he said, "Unleash the amazing parade," in Korea. So thing one, nobody, and there were about 100 luminaries, etc., on the viewing stand, nobody wearing a mask. And they were shoulder to shoulder in the front row. Kim Jong-un was flanked shoulder to shoulder by his generals. And then behind him in several rows, nut to butt, as they say in certain military services, were other senior ranking guys, no masks. No masks. And so, you'll recall back in, if we're playing the memory game, one canary in the coal mine for me early in January was when news came that North Korea shut down the border with China, just slapped it down. And the guards, as we found out a couple weeks ago, are literally on shoot to kill orders. And that means anybody coming in from China across the Yalu River or up in the northern border, the northeast border, the other river there, I forgot it. They are shooting to kill anyone who comes across the border. Now, here's the reason that was significant back in January. For North Korea, that is their doorway to luxury Western goods. That is how smugglers come in from southern China with luxury goods for the black market in North Korea. They bribe the border guards with a 4K TV. They bribe the border guard brigade commander. It's as corrupt as hell. So that was shut down. The North Koreans who have experience with famine, and what happens right after famine? Well, it's your pestilence. When horseman number 1 shows up, horseman number 2 is right behind him. And the North Koreans know this. They live far more closely to the earth than we do. They are no strangers to epidemics. Most of them self-generated. So when they shut down that border and said, we don't need that money, because if we leave that border open, that China bat soup virus is going to get in here, and the way we live is going to kill all of us. And so they shut down that border. So is the proof in the pudding? I don't know. But I was looking at thousands, tens of thousands of people in close formation in the parade, nobody with a mask on. Up on the dais, nobody with a mask on. Now, is the joke on them? And they all come down with a vid next week and half of them die or whatever? No, I'm going to say no. I'm going to tell you that, like my story about Yugoslavia in I've told this story ad nauseum about how Tito defeated a smallpox outbreak in Yugoslavia. He did it with dictatorial powers. It's just that there was no time when the emergency was over. When the smallpox epidemic was defeated, he was still the dictator. Jury's out on Gavin Newsom. So anyway, my Fitbit says I did 10,000 steps today, just by clapping. Look at that. All right, we'll take a break, and I'll talk more about my Fitbit online here at YouTube at unsheepyourself.com. But it would appear that North Korea was revealing several things today. One of them is maybe it's a gigantic, movie set, or maybe they have not been ravished by the COVID. We'll be back right after this. Dark Secret Place, KFI AM 640 live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app. Claudette Stefanian with the news.
Some playgrounds and parks are being allowed to reopen in LA for the first time in months. Criminal jury trials in LA County that were delayed because of the pandemic have been given the okay to move forward. President Donald Trump's doctor says the president is no longer at risk of transmitting the coronavirus to others, but he does not say whether Trump has tested negative. We take a look at trouble on the 5 next.
Contractor license 1047-781. Your home is your castle.
All right, back in a second.
Your safe place. Quality of life begins at home. And family safety and security begin at home. Gale Air Conditioning and Plumbing can increase your family's quality of life and
I have to wee-wee.
you're only 7 steps away from fresh, clean, healthy air and pure, clean, healthy water. Step 1 is to get Sadie's Guard Dog Protection for just $14.95 a month. Step 2 is a water purity system to eliminate chemicals, dissolved fertilizers, and pharmaceuticals from your water. Step 3 is an indoor air quality system to kill mold, germs, and viruses. Step 4 is a new antimicrobial duct system to stop duct leaks. Step 5 is a tankless water heater for endless hot water, or a 5-star tank water heater guaranteed not to flood. Step 6 is a new high-tech ghetto AC system. You might never need step 7, but it's our magical water pipe and sewer pipe repair without digging up your yard. Ghetto. G-O-E-T-T-L. G-O-E-T-T-L.
Partly cloudy for tonight, sunny skies for Sunday. Let's take a look at the 60. Or excuse me, the 5.
I could have done the 60 as well, but we'll go with the 5. This is in Norwalk on the 5 southbound at Rosecrans. We have a crash involving an overturned car. That's taken up the 2 right lanes there. Your drive is starting to stack up from just before Firestone. Hawthorne, we have good news. Earlier crash on the 405 northbound at Rosecrans. Well, it's been cleared from lanes, but the damage is done. You're still seeing delays from Inglewood and in Vasquez Rocks. This is on the 14 northbound at Soledad Canyon. Cleanup crews from an earlier crash taking up the right lane there. Your drive is stop and go from Sands Canyon. This report is sponsored by iAccidentLawyer.com. KFI of the Sky helps get you there faster. I'm Brian Vance.
Settlement alert. $3.395 million for motorcycle victims suffering severe injury to left ankle rib fracture injury. Attorney Robert Koenig results vary. Not guarantee automobile failed to yield in daytime accident.
Okay, I'm back. Yay, me.
Americans are on the line. That's why AARP California is fighting to protect voters 50 plus. AARP California wants to make sure that you know all of your voting options and that every American
Were you all admiring the seal?
from home or in person. To learn more about your voting options, visit aarp.org/CA votes. Paid for by AARP.
Yeah, speaking of that, Lauren is probably going to be a guest on Connect Pal, on not a Dark Secret Place style podcast, but more of like a week in review or like a morning show kind of a thing. Lauren Sivan, she used to be on Big Fox and then Fox 11, and then she was part of the morning show in KBC. I met her at KBC, and we're really good friends. I love her to death. She and her boyfriend, fiance Andrew, are really good friends. We're all really good friends now, and she's helped a lot in the past year with my daughter. That my daughter needs woman time, and so Lauren's been really, really good. Where like I can drop my daughter off with her at 9 a.m. and they will go shopping all fucking day, and $500 later, my daughter has, bags from Bloomingdale's and everything. So, so she's become a really good friend, and we banter when we go out and drink. We banter, and we've said that just like me and Kennedy have said, this should be a show. So we figured, why not be, a podcast? So we will.
C-10 tanker plane dropping 12,000 pounds of retardant on a California wildfire. But imagine an air armada.
Yeah, there's a thing called the CISM, the International Military Sports Council. That's when I used to do biathlon for the Nevada Army National Guard. All of our events in Norway and Finland and Vermont were CISM World Games, and it's a thing. It's a real thing. But the Chinese are saying, oh no, the Americans brought the China virus. They stopped that real fast, by the way.
In 2 minutes.
Message from Medicare.
You know how Medicare plans can change from year to year?
Oh, yeah.
Well, this coming year, premiums are at historic lows.
Really?
Yeah, and hundreds of plans will have insulin for just $35 a month.
That will save some money. Can't wait to look at my plan choices for 2021.
Actually, that's not why the U.S. troops are in the Republic of Korea. But if anyone does not want to see a reunited Korea, it's the Chinese. So Mike Boltinghouse, I saw that comment. If the assumption is that North Korea someday will collapse. And there's a very famous operations plan for that. And in the op plan that's pretty publicly available, it really is about damage control and not about reunification. The number one foreign policy goal of China right now is to prevent a reunification of the Korean Peninsula. Number two is fucking with American foreign policy in the Western Pacific.
It's time to hire. Indeed you do. The moment you sponsor a job on Indeed, you get a short list of quality candidates from our resume database. Indeed delivers 2.5 times more hires than the other branded job sites combined, according to Breezy HR.
Yeah, Sandy G. Yeah, so ConnectPal's still open. I'm going to cap subscriptions probably at the end of October because there's going to be a lot of subjects in November that I cannot talk about on the radio that are going to be happening. I mean, I guarantee it. November's going to be a shit show. Sorry. KFI AM 640, it is the Dark Secret Place. Brian Suits in here until 11, live everywhere on the iHeart Radio app. And, all right, so let's turn our attention to the the Wolverine Watchman. And let me just say this up front. So you decided you want to become an insurgent. Your number one job, if you have any idea what you're doing, from that point forward, is security, not let's think of awesome names. Insurrection is specifically something that the president can call the military in to quell. And there's really not another word for this. I didn't like the president's response talking about that woman in Michigan and all that, because the issue at hand is that citizens taking advantage of the Second Amendment were going to take up arms against a lawfully elected state governor. And I should say this, regardless of what you think about her performance in the pandemic, she was lawfully elected. She has a legal mandate from the people of Michigan to be the governor. Will she be reelected? Well, not based on her COVID performance. And I'll say this, as loathsome as Gavin Newsom is, as arbitrary as he has been, he's not even in the ballpark of this governor of Michigan. So the fact that some nutbags got together and said, hey, let's find 200 like-minded friends and storm the state capitol, I think it's not a surprise. It was predictable. The next wacky plot, I would say it's coming out of Washington State, where you have a equally tone-deaf governor, Jay Inslee, and you have a lot of very, very angry people in the part of the state that's not Seattle, who have a lot of firearms, and they don't like that their livelihoods have been kicked in the balls through non-scientific, arbitrary decisions shielded behind the words science and data, just like Newsom is doing here. But the guy up there is imitating Newsom, and he's doing it by pulling regulations right out of his butt and all that. Anyway, that's a precursor to what was going on in Michigan. The fact that these guys were so easily given up just sort of points to what I said at the top of this, that the next guys that do something like this, and we will be talking about insurrection and civil war, because they won't make the same mistakes. At least they shouldn't. How am I looking at this? Well, I have the affidavit that was filed on the 6th, which was what, Wednesday night? Wednesday or Thursday? Yeah, it was October. It went. The guy was arrested. The guys were arrested on October 7th, 6th and 7th, and the affidavit dropped on the 7th. And it's on YouTube. You'll see it. I did it 3 days ago. I read the affidavit as soon as it was released. I read it, and we went through it. And we went through how the confidential human sources, there were 2 of them, as well as 2 undercover FBI agents, were able to fairly easily penetrate this group. And why? Well, because they didn't know exactly who else was in their own militia, and to and it's lucky for us that these guys were incompetent, because the initial plan was ridiculous on the face of it. Hey, let's get 200 guys who want to make a suicidal assault on the state capitol, and then as we're holding the governor, we'll issue demands, as if law enforcement wouldn't respond somehow. And it would have been that plan, had they been able to find 200 idiots to join that plan, it would have wound up as Branch Davidian 2.0. And so some of the early cell of militia who heard that plan, one guy specifically, went to the FBI and said, listen, these guys that I go out on the weekends with and drink beer and shoot tires crossed the line and said something really wacky. Okay, you're at that point, you're done. You are done. And then when they settled on Plan B, which was, well, let's wait for her to go to that vacation home that they go to, because that became famous because the governor's husband was caught trying to rent a boat when no one else could rent a boat out at there. They have a privately owned vacation home. Then the governor of Michigan, whoever's in the office of governor, has access to a vacation home. So Plan B was, when she's on vacation, let's set a distraction bomb, and when her entire protective detail go running off to investigate that bomb, we'll kidnap her, take her to Wisconsin, and put her on trial, because if you believe in authority, then you're supporting slavery, man. So who were these guys? They're being called right wing. They're so far right wing. The line between them and Antifa is pretty blurred. I'm back in a second. The insurrection in Michigan, right after this. DarkSecretPlace, KFI AM 640, live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app. Claudette Stefani with the news.
President Donald Trump's doctor says the president is no longer at risk of transmitting the coronavirus, but he does not say whether President Trump is tested.
They all were BLM. Yeah, the main guy was BLM. On Facebook, they're all BLM. And also they were talking about kill cops, defund police, support Black Lives Matter because Black Lives Matter wants to kill police, and all that. I mean, these guys were a fringe of that sort of I'm off the grid libertarian, and you can roll your government up your ass, man.
Michigan militia.
Wolverine watchmen.
Yeah, hey. They're on different sides of the street with each other, bickering.
Yeah. Oh, I got to mention that thing in Denver.
Yeah, the shooting.
And that it was the left-wing guy.
Yeah.
Who shot the Patriot guy.
Yeah, that's different.
Against the narrative.
Yeah. Those stories, there's some doozies in there. There's some interesting shit.
Yeah, and I've got some. I've been banking some good local stuff for tomorrow.
Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff that happened. There's some holy fuck stories in there.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't seen the latest out of that. Yeah, TV these days goes around with private security.
Studios based in Burbank have a lot of success with movies based on theme park attractions, including Pirates of the Caribbean.
But there was a use of pepper spray or something, right?
Recently announced plans for another live-action Haunted Mansion movie. Less Facebook could be the key to a happier face.
The folks at the Happiness Research Institute found that keeping off Facebook for a week can significantly improve your happiness. The study split around 1,000 people into 2 groups. One group was banned from logging onto Facebook for a week, while a control group was told to continue using the site as they
stop their social media, experience less.
I'm watching video of what's supposed to be this shooting. Oh, it's after the shooting.
Back up, please. Shot him straight up, right in front of me.
So someone, yeah, if this is a security guy. He's a weaselly little guy. He's not dressed like a security guy. Yeah, can confirm about Washington. Oregon's very much the same way.
Mike Diamond came to my rescue.
He did.
No, not mine. Dana's.
Dana?
She's in Anaheim. I'm reading her testimonial on MikeDiamond.com.
Aren't they the smell good plumbers?
Well, I've never personally smelled them, but I'd say Dana got a good whiff. She wrote, Mike Diamond came to my rescue within an hour of me calling. Not only did they assist me, but my dad too in the same week. Very professional and very fast. Love, love, love.
That's a lot of love for a plumber.
She gave him a 5-star review.
5 stars? I really give anybody 5 stars.
You don't have enough love in your heart.
You saying I should smell my plumber?
No, but if you want an experience like Dana's, you should call the Smell Good Plumbers.
I'm Mike Diamond. I guarantee my plumbers will show up on time and smell good. While your house call is free. Read a few of the testimonials and then book your...
Yeah, so I don't know what anyone is reporting. We're at the point where you can't trust any reports early on. There's like apparently the moment of the shooting.
Lows in the upper 50s to mid-60s on Sunday. Highs in the 70s at the beaches to around 80 inland for Metro LA. Highs in the 80s for the valleys. Highs in the 70s to the 80s in inland Orange County. Highs in the 80s in the IE. We lead local, live from the KFI 24-hour newsroom. I'm Claudette Stefanian.
Planning a small get-together? You'll
2
need
minutes.
cups, plates, burgers, chips, masks, outdoor air, 6 feet of distance, as few people as possible, and plenty of hand soap. Make sure lowering the risk of spreading COVID-19 is on your list for your next small gathering.
While it is safest not to get
Okay, I'm tweeting out the Denver Post story, which confirms that it was a Channel 9 contracted security guy through Pinkerton.
Love getting prices that are lower than low on food that's fresher than fresh? Then shop at Ralph's. We give you more ways to save on the fresh you love with tools like the Ralph's app, where you can find personalized coupons on top of weekly sales, giving you prices that are lower than the everyday low. Ralph's.
So my battery is dying. So we'll do this till the top of the hour and make it 2 hours even. Thanks, by the way, for all of you who are staying on YouTube. It's very important. It helps support the YouTube channel because you're all a very high demo and you stay on for a long time. And I appreciate that because you see there's sort of a better quality of commercial ad that comes up.
You want me to get a bumper?
And stuff. No, I'll get one.
Okay.
So I appreciate the longer you stay on, and then feel free to fish around on the other videos and share them, bounce them around and all that. And it's a fun thing to do. Hopefully, I'm going to hire someone to help me with video production and all that.
Such as renewing your vehicle registration, driver's license, and more. Online from the safety of home, all while protecting
15
yourself
seconds.
and others. Stay safe, stay home, do it online. Visit dmv.ca.gov to get started today. dmv.ca.gov. Live,
KFI,
local,
AM 640.
and iHeart radio station.
Able to live. Able to love.
Because it's a dance party is what it is. KFI AM 640. It is the Dark Secret Place. Brian Suits in here. Live on the iHeartRadio app. Live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app. Also streaming on YouTube at Unsheep Yourself. and my phone battery is dying, so I think it's going to be the end of it here in 10 minutes. So anyway, the Wolverine Watchmen, with a silly concept and sort of made up oppression. What's funny is if you just spend 10 minutes looking at some of the posts on Facebook that these guys were putting up, specifically Brandon Caserta, Caserta. And this is a guy with Post Malone tats from his cheekbones, all the way down, gigantic hoop, earrings, the ones that are stuck in the ear and the earlobe and all that. And he's going on and on and on about, in one screed, he's saying that if you follow government authority, then you're supporting slavery because you're no better than a slave if you follow the law, and all that. And these were the guys whose genius plan was to kidnap the governor and then put her on trial because of her misuse of authority. They decided that all authority is evil unless it's them. So they were somehow going to muster up the authority to put her on trial, and then they were going to execute her. So I think you can just save the trial at that point or something. But I would like to think that the idiots get culled out by the herd and the whole thing. But there are still a lot of people who are looking at a chaotic situation more so than perhaps they've ever been in their life. And they're saying the pandemic plus the political disarray. By the way, these guys, they didn't like Trump. They supported killing cops, Black Lives Matter, defunding police. They were so far to the quote right, close quote, that they blurred the line with Antifa. And they're still being described as far right. No, they're beyond far right. They're not, because if you're right wing, you believe in the Constitution. You believe in allowing the rule of law and objectivity, not feelings, not emotions, but it's there. It's in the Constitution. These guys didn't believe in the Constitution. So they fail at thing number one about being a conservative. And they didn't like Trump. But so anyway, objectively, looking at it as an insurgency, as I read the affidavit, I couldn't help but ping it off of one of my favorite military manuals from your what are we talking, 2009? When was it? Joint Publication 3-05.1, your Unconventional Warfare Pocket Guide. Because in counterinsurgency, because you see, I did that for 18 months in Baghdad. I developed relationships so that we could identify insurgent cells and either penetrate them with our own people, not Americans, but with our people, or provide incentives to give up information, or best case scenario, provide incentives so that they didn't insurgent and that they just self-reported and said, yeah, we're not going to do this anymore. That was a win. And we did that by winning the insurgency, by overcoming their objectives. But if guys decided, no, we're going to still insurgent, well, we took care of them. But I learned, and I was trained, and I learned that the best way to do it is get in their mindset. Be them for a minute. And same with these guys. And so I'm really serious, but I'll be serious about this. And I'll just say this on the air to maybe save some of you some grief. I have been from time to time contacted by people who listen to KFI or listen to the podcast or whatever. This started happening during the Obama presidency. There were a lot of people who thought that your guns were going to be taken away and the whole thing. And you wanted information on how to communicate securely with each other. And I said, don't do that. Now, to be honest, back when I did live shows pre-pandemic, one of the show I did last year, if any of you who went to it, was called what? How to Hide Your Gun from Gavin Newsom. That was the name of the show. And during that live show, I taught you how to hide guns from Gavin Newsom. Well, he hasn't come from yet, but it's not the end of the year yet. When I'm contacted by people who want to go to the next level, I always respond back to them, you've failed in the first thing. You contacted me via email using those words. Don't ever contact me again. And if I were you, drop the idea. And so I would say this to the KFI listener. If you're thinking that we're on the verge of a civil war, I cleaned up the mess left from a civil war for a year of my life in Bosnia. Okay, we're not near that. I wasn't around in 1860, but one of my experiences in life was cleaning up the mess of a civil war. And that not only means the feelings of the various warring sides, but I'm talking literally about mass graves, about exhuming mass graves full of kids, adults, old people, even one that had the family pets in it. It was really weird. And so I've seen what civil war can do. And that was an ethnic civil war, but a civil war nevertheless. And I'm telling you that you're racing to a conclusion that no evidence supports. Whether you're far left and you say, Trump's not going to leave the White House. From a practical standpoint, if he loses the election, he's going to leave the White House. The Washington Post had a story today about pro bono attorneys are going to make themselves available. Because if you're not aware of this, there's going to be a fairly significant National Guard active call-up prior to the election. There's going to be considerable federal law enforcement resources moved to Washington, D.C. and the whole thing. Because if you can't figure it out, November is going to be an S show leading up to the election, and there's not going to be a winner on the night of Tuesday, November 3rd. So it's going to be an S show possibly for several weeks as dribs and drabs of envelopes from states that have never had mail-in elections are trying to DF this first time ever. Here, we have two things going for us. We have a lot of mail-in experience, and Dean Logan, the county registrar, knows exactly where to find enough ballots to get whatever tax increase to pass. Secondly, we're not in play. This state doesn't matter. Spoiler alert, Biden wins California. There, okay? But I want you all to vote yes on Prop 22 and vote anyway. So anyway, you may not see it here, but in some of the swing states where they don't have a lot of mail-in experience, it's going to be an S show. And there are some people who are going to say that they're stealing the election on both sides. You understand this? If there are shots fired, and by the way, in Denver tonight, I'll tell you about this, a pro-patriot rally versus an Antifa rally happened, and a pro-patriot guy was shot and killed. Turns out by a security contractor working for a TV outlet there in Denver. I'll tell you about that. I have a really depressing, sad feeling about this. Now, as I say, I've seen the aftermath of civil wars. We're not close to what set that one off, but we have loads and loads and loads of individuals who think that they're in a life or death moment and that they're being called upon as patriots. I would just say this. Don't contact me because my next phone call will be to the FBI. There. I've saved you some grief. Back right after this. What happened in Denver, I'll give you that, what we know, the latest that we know in just a second. KFI AM 640, it's the Dark Secret Place, live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app. Claudette Stefanian with the latest.
President Donald Trump's doctor says the president is no longer at risk of transmitting.
My screen went dark, and that means that it's on battery saver mode.
Space Mountain attraction into a movie. We take a look at issues on the 5 next.
By the way, if it's apparent to all of you that I've lost weight, it's because I have lost weight. I stopped drinking beer in February of 2019. That was a big deal. And I've increased my physical activity by a significant amount. And that includes building muscle, because the more muscle you have, the more energy you burn. And I'm going pretty hard on the keto to the point where